first time ever.
Hear you loud and clearly.
And it was going place.
That stuff's great.
But the game is not a roguelike.
Boomer shooter.
Bang.
Hello, this is John St. John, and you're listening to KEEP in the Keep, bringing you all the hits from the finest in the world of gaming and entertainment. Now sit back and relax as the drowned god Cathala lulls your mind with the tastiest talk in town.
Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. The Keep is a collective of gaming enthusiasts compelled by the drowned god Cathala to frag and jib one another into oblivion for all eternity. So this week we are joined by the incomparable Johnathan Wendel, Fatal1ty, right? And he is, a monumental name in eSports in general. Like, there's no one who really pioneered the industry, and I say that word intentionally, the industry of eSports. Not only was he an incredible player, like, he definitely just fucked up his competition. There's no question about it. Dominated the world of, Quake 3, Unreal Tournament. Just, what an incredible player he was. But also in terms of brand building, Fatal1ty was, along with Machiavelli, which I'll get into a little bit in the interview, but he revolutionized the way that people who play esports make money. And it was fantastic to speak with him. And I want to get into a little bit, just before we get into the actual interview itself, that, I had my prejudices. I had my predispositions about what he would be like as a human being. I had my thoughts. And we all do that. Every human being does that, right? We all kind of have an idea of who we're talking to before we speak to them, or, make ideas about them as we speak to them. And I tried my absolute best to just put that aside, because what you'll see in this interview, and I'm very proud to say that I've accomplished this, at least in my own estimation, and I hope that you agree. Johnathan Wendel, Fatal1ty, he's not just this icon. He's not just this brand. He's not just this, some people would use the word egomaniac to describe him. Like, he can come across that way because he's been so successful in life. But to me, he's a person. He's a human being who's shaped by the experience that he's had in his life. And I really honestly didn't think when I agreed to do this interview that it would come across that way. I thought that I would be talking to, a symbol. And what I found as I went through this is that I really am, just as always, talking to another fragile, honest person, human fucking being who's been through, a life that includes triumph, trauma, tribulation, questioning, everything. And I was amazed by the fact that, this person that I hold to such a high esteem honestly has been through probably, harder things than any of us could really imagine. He, at a young age, and he'll get into this in the interview, but I just want to tell it right now just to really sell the story. At a young age, he was presented with a situation that really shaped him and who he would become as an adult. And that's not to be diminished. So for all of you who are tuning in, like, thinking like, oh yeah, Fatal1ty, like, you've heard Thorin's interview with him, you've heard other people interview him, and not to diminish it, those are all, everybody you've heard interview him, I think they're great. I really especially think Thorin is great, but this is not just a conversation about Fatal1ty, the Quake player, the UT player, the esports guy. This is a conversation with a real person, a real fucking human fucking being, and he deserves to be heard, and I'm very proud to share it with you. I hope that you find some meaning in this, and we've got some music that's gonna play for you from Igrac Simon. I love him. I'll leave a link to his other music in the episode notes, but when it's over, you will be in the keep with Mr. Fatal1ty.
Well, I mean, I got to where I got by just like never giving up, being relentless, going for, what I wanted in my life. I always had a backup plan in case, my adventure of playing video games didn't, pan out. But basically I sacrificed a lot at a young age as a teenager, graduating high school. Right out of high school, obviously I moved out of my mom's house to move in with my dad 2 weeks before graduation, and basically trained like crazy. And I just, as a teenager, I always played a lot of sports, and I felt like I never really got my full shot to really train as hard as I want to train for a tournament or anything. So for me, that was like a constant thing that was kind of like not given to me or allowed as a young kid. And so when I became an adult at 18 and graduating high school, I wanted to commit 1,000% to one thing, and that was esports and gaming. And basically that led me on to, going to a tournament, showing the world that I have the talent and the skill. And shortly after that, companies were taking notice of my talent and my stardom, I guess, at a very young age. And then eventually exploded over the next few years, to be kind of globally known as, one of the best gamers in the world.
There's like really no denying that. Just brief history on like where I come from. I started playing Quake 3 when I was in high school. And, at the time, you go Google or, look up on YouTube Quake 3, and you were, in fact, the man. Like, there was no getting around it. There was a point in time when you were like the only, actually famous esports player that I had ever heard of, and any of my friends had ever heard of. And when I first started this podcast, that was all people would, Fatal1ty, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, there's just no getting around it, dude. You definitely kicked ass and took names in your journey through all of it.
Yeah. And that's kind of the goal, like when you're playing all these tournaments, kind of have that no mercy attitude. I didn't want there to be room for, a second person to have a thought that they were like doing what I was doing. So when I was switching games and so forth, I was out there to, prove that I wasn't just the best Quake 3 player in the world, but I wanted to switch to other games and show my prowess in other shooters as well. I didn't want to be titled just as a Quake 3 champion. I wanted to show people that, like, I'm the best gamer in the world. And obviously I stayed in my genre of shooters though. But I feel like that's what the most popular esports titles are these first person shooters. You see Counter-Strike Go now and in the past and the last 2 decades. I mean, it's still like one of the most popular games out there. Obviously arena shooters have kind of taken a backseat, and I think a lot of the reason why arena has taken kind of a backseat in general popularity is just the skill level is so high that the masses, the mainstream, just can't get into it. You have guys who are just so dominant at playing arena shooters that, essentially it makes people uninstall the game. People like that team environment, feeling like they have a chance. In 1v1 deathmatch, which what I played was a very like final outcome. It's basically you won and you knew you're the best, or you lost and you knew you sucked. And that's what I loved about arena shooters and 1v1 dueling was because it was really a mano-a-mano kind of experience. And, I kind of missed that in esports a little bit because people always can lean off like, oh, my team didn't play well, or I just hate excuses. I like it when it's final.
There's a lot of people my age, like not me, but a lot of my friends and stuff, that were into Fortnite and PUBG and stuff like that when it got really popular. And I think it was a couple of years ago, I was sitting at work and I had pulled up your stream and you were playing, I think you were playing Fortnite. It was
PUBG a lot.
This particularly was a Fortnite video because my friends were watching and they're like, was this guy going to build? I'm like, trust me, he doesn't have to. And then you fucking annihilated like an entire team. You're so gifted at the shooting portion of it that it's what's weird about Fortnite is it's really not. Shooting is kind of the backseat of the game, right? It's mostly about building and, just
building and creating opportunity. Yeah. So obviously Fortnite was actually exciting to me because it showed me a new fighting technique, a new way to battle. Mm-hmm. And I actually kind of liked it, just because of the sense of, now I'm editing walls and building and so forth. And, you're trying to predict how much bullets you want to use to knock down this wall and how much to knock down this wall, then build on that wall, then edit that wall and then get your shot off. It definitely was interesting. I feel like it's very camp savvy, like plus back mentality, which I'm not a big fan of because I just like action more than defensive gameplay all the time. And whenever I see a game being built or made, I'm like, can we make it a plus forward game, like where being aggressive pays dividends, it's just like what I like in games like that. I mean, I played PUBG as well in 2017 when it first launched. I played it for about 2+ years. But I decided to kind of do like my old training regiment towards PUBG, and obviously it's a lot of survival tactics. It gives me flashbacks to Quake 4 almost, like where you're just trying to shoot the railgun run and just constantly just playing defensively. I think that's what Quake 4 was kind of like to me. And PUBG was kind of the same thing. Like, I played solos a lot. And basically it's just minimizing your time exposed to the world because at any moment a guy could pull out a Kar 98K sniper and snipe your head off. You could, there's so many different ways to die in that game, especially if you have multiple people trying to shoot you because you're in a server with 100 people. So minimizing risk all the time is like the name of the game, which, I'm also a master of. So I deployed that tactic for about a month and a half and actually got to #1 in North America solos and held that spot for about 10 days. So it's pretty cool to obviously I'm not playing like in the biggest tournaments anymore, but I can still put that kind of practiced regiment into place in a game that's current today and still show that I can dominate that game.
What's interesting about how you're very analytical about how the game works. It seems to be your ability that you've developed to jump from game to game and still be highly successful comes from the fact that you can. Some people just learn like muscle memory, like how do I play Quake really well, and just those techniques, and then they focus on that for their entire life. But your ability to kind of dive in and figure out what's different and how you can get that edge sets you apart. And I think that's why, when you were doing the Fatal1ty house deal, right? And you have so many students, former students of yours that I've met over the years that are so cool. I've talked to Miss X on the show before. I've talked to, I'm really good friends with Mega Blazer. If you remember him, he's Violent Heart now. Yeah. And, Jared also. And I told Mega Blazer, like hey man, I'm going to do this interview with Fatal1ty. And he sent me these pictures that were like you guys playing Mario Kart. Yeah. And even that, he's like, he was fucking freaking out every time he won a Mario Kart. Like, what gave you?
I destroyed all of them. Dude, you have no idea about my Mario Kart skills, but they're pretty nuts. So when we were training for, I think it was the Painkiller World Tour that year or whatnot. I had a 6-man LAN center in my basement of my house. The house I was renting out from Jared, Street Runner, my old buddy from high school, and
Check out,
roommates and all.
ZenGaming.com, if I'm not mistaken.
Zen was one of my players I sponsored through the Fatal1ty brand. But yeah, anyways, whenever we're training and playing, we always had like this downtime, and I always like advocated that we needed downtime to relax. And Mario Kart was like kind of our caveat to relax. I remember one day we played so much. We have a massive like 65, 70-inch screen in the front living room, and we have 4 GameCube controllers hooked up to it, and then I like I'm just smashing everyone. I mean, I think I had like 100 and something first place wins. And like the next guy was like at 20 or something like that, 20, 10, and like 6 or whatever. It was hilarious. But, in every game, like, just like Mario Kart, there's just, in Mario Kart, there was an edge of like when to be in first place and when not to be in first place, when to get the question mark cube thing to get a certain power up, whatever deal was. And then you could play off that, right? Yeah. And like with one lap left, all these kind of like little details to excel at that right time. So I knew the window of opportunity, right? In Quake and Unreal Tournament and Painkiller, all these games have different fighting techniques. So, obviously in Quake, in the early days, getting the first kill was actually massive because there was random spawn points. So one kill could lead to, 2, 3, or 4 kills because of, person getting unlucky with spawns and so forth. But in reality, he shouldn't have died in the first place. So that's on him. But then Quake 3 started slowing their game down and making it more slow paced. So then it became more important about keeping control of the map. In Unreal Tournament, all the fights were medium to far range. There was really no close combat fighting. So I could lower my sensitivity even more in that game and be even more accurate. And so in Unreal Tournament, the fighting was really kind of slow paced. It was more about like catching your opponent off guard and surprising them. I mean, every game is about surprising your opponent, but like that was more of like you had to do that. You had to surprise him to get a kill, because if he heard you coming, he could always back and run away, back, run away, back, run away. And, you got to catch the guy being too aggressive in a certain situation. And Painkiller, it was about timing items and so forth, but it was kind of like a throwback to Quake 3, the original Quake 3. Painkiller was this really fast-paced game where if you killed a guy in the game, he would spawn anywhere. It was random spawn, and then you could run the table. You can get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kills after the initial kill. So dying in Quake 3 in the early days and dying in Painkiller are almost the exact same. Whoever gets the first kill is going to have a massive advantage going forward. So you need to be very careful about how you die and when you die and so forth. You got to learn how to pick your fights. So I always loved playing all the different games I played and learning all the different styles of gameplay to succeed in those games. And when I went from Quake 3 to Unreal Tournament, I was lost. In my mind, I was horrible. I was not good. I went to a qualifier and took like 4th or something like that, and I was like, that's not me. If I go to qualifier, usually I'm taking first every time. I have a track record that shows like if I know the game, like I take top 3 over 90% of the time. I take first over 60% of the time. And so, playing Unreal Tournament was learning that new fighting technique. And then eventually, obviously, I peaked at the right time with the MTV True Life episode on MTV. And all I know is I trained as hard as I could. I practiced as hard as I could. I did everything I could possibly do to be prepared in 2 months from that qualifier that I took 4th in or whatever to go to that tournament. Then I went to the tournament and I smoked everyone. I mean, it was like one of my best performances I've ever had in my esports history, actually. I only died an average of 1.5 deaths per game. So, I mean, literally in a 15-minute match, I'm only dying 1.5 times in the match. And so it kind of shows like how dominant I was during that time. And I used to love keeping track of my stats, like of different things. And during the World Tour of Painkiller, especially, like I used to deploy different strategies like throughout the year. Like, okay, this tournament I'm going to be super aggro aggressive on this map. This tournament I'm going to be super defensive in this tournament. So I'm always changing my play styles. I love A/B testing everything. And it's just, for me, it's a lot of fun to know how to play both positions very well, either on offense or defense, or just being crazy sometimes. The best players in the world, I think, have all facets to be the best game in the world. They have good aim, they have good movement, they have good strategy, they have good timing. They have all these skill sets, right? But the best players in the world are also a little crazy at times because they know they have to throw a wrench into the strategy. Because if you're just an ABC guy running the map and doing strategy only, the strategy guy is going to die at the power ups, at the items all the time. You play against a defensive guy, eventually you're going to bleed him out, and eventually you'll find your moment to get him. If a guy's offensive, he's going to die anywhere because he's an aggressive person in general. But I think it's very important to know all those different play styles, and I try to learn all of them.
So when you were taking on a student and you're trying to teach them and instill all of these ideas in your mind, I understand that you were kind of actually quite secretive about, like don't share, not sharing demos and like keeping information away basically from your competition at the time. Yeah. Some people today kind of have this like totally different idea. Everybody's got their live gameplay on Twitch. You can study up on an opponent very, very easily. But, what was your goal as far as instilling these ideas and, people that were coming to you for the sake of learning and being successful?
Well, if I liked you and you were a training partner or whatnot, I had simple rules. There's no recording demos. There's no, when press talks to you or another gamer talks to you about what happens in the training, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about favorite maps. We don't talk about favorite weapons. We don't talk about anything. Like if they ask how good you are, or how good I am, just tell them he's really good. Like be very vague about it. Like there's no reason to answer the question. And like that's the benefit of training with me, So I was like, I'm giving you guys the opportunity to train with me, and I promise you're getting the best training you possibly can get here. Like I was very proud of like how I trained, and I surrounded myself with fun people too. Like the people I was training with were actually just fun guys to talk shit with too. So we had a lot of fun training, and I don't know, we everyone was on the same page. I think I only had one person. One quick 3 player lost cause that kind of broke the rule, and then we had to kick him out of the training thing. But he was the only guy I ever had a problem with. Pretty much everyone was spot on. They understood the trust and the honesty of each other, and that was the deal.
So how does that inform someone? I'm a little, I don't know, struggling to put into words here. You have a very strong personality, right? Like you kind of dominate the room anytime that you walk into it. When people talk about Fatal1ty, they talk about like this sort of force, right? You're not even a person, to some people. You're like this icon, and I wonder like how does someone learn from that? Like how does someone look at that and find a way to? So is it just, all right, we're just going to train together? Because I don't really understand what quite the process was. We're just going to play games together until you get better, or were you like actually teaching, fundamental ideas?
No, I mean, there would be times when we have like theory crafting where we would talk about theories and so forth. And, with Zen, I shared a lot of my top secret things that I had on my own mind. Mm-hmm. And some of the guys I train with, they were like top 32 players in the world. They get to play against me. So that's like their kind of thing. And yeah, I would share ideas with them too and so forth. But in reality, you don't want to share every little detail. But, for the most part, I mean, they're so far behind, or they're so like, you don't want to overwhelm them either. But like, they're just getting better every day. I mean, literally out of my training camp for the World Tour, 3 people finished in the top 8 at the World Tour Finals that came out of my training camp. So obviously it works. I took first, and I think Wombat and Zen finished in the top 8 back then. And so, these guys train with me all day, every day. Wombat was an amazing player in the early days of Quake 3. Obviously, was one of the guys that knocked me out of my very first pro tournament. Mm-hmm. He maybe finished 3rd. I was really upset that I didn't get to win that first one, but I think not winning my very first tournament that I entered, it gave me this hunger for the rest of my life. Because I think if I thought esports was easy, I would not have tried so hard. Knowing how hard it is to win a championship and so forth, it made me really value all the ones I did win, because it sucks losing, but I'm glad I had that hunger and desire to win. But yeah, I mean, the guys we trained with, man, it was awesome. Like I loved every bit of it. I mean, traveling to Germany, traveling to Sweden, traveling to South Africa, traveling all around the world, living in apartments, houses, kids' parents' houses, living in the guest bedroom in the basement, having LAN centers set up in the middle of people's dorms, in their apartments and their houses, in their basement of their houses, having parents feed me, it was a trip, man, like total adventure of a life. And I loved every bit of it. And to travel to over 30 countries to play video games and esports has been a blessing for me. And it's been a lot of fun to kind of spread the word of esports across the globe and kind of be that front runner, talking, barnstorming these countries and telling them about esports and how it's is coming, and I was living proof of it every day. There's this one like little video clip of like my dominance from like 2000 to 2010, but like, I was the highest paid gamer in esports for over a decade. And that was, strictly tournament wins. And it just shows like how much, I love traveling to compete against the best players. And I fly to Australia, Great Wall of China, Russia, Brazil, Chile, all over the Scandinavian countries, all over Europe, obviously here in America and Canada and Mexico. And like, I just love competing at the end of the day. It's just like, even today, it's still in my blood. I love competing, and I compete now in sports as well, like playing golf or hockey or paddle tennis or whatever. For me, I love playing sports and I love playing esports. I like both of them because they both revolve around competition, and you can only do certain ones at a certain time of the day. So I try to balance my life with competition all the time.
What happened to you when you were a kid that turned you into this competitive machine? Like, who hurt you? That's what I really want to get at.
Well, it's funny you asked that. As a young kid, from like basically 5 to 13, I played baseball, hockey, football. We won the Pop Warner Championship when I was like 12 or 13 years old in Lee Summit, Missouri. And so I just played a lot of sports as a kid. And then I was really good at billiards. So at pool, I was very talented at pool, and I used to gamble from time to time.
I was specifically told to ask you about billiards. That was going to come up at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've won some money playing pool at the pool halls. And I was pretty much the number one ranked like junior, like 12 or 13-year-old kid in Missouri at when I was that age. That's how good I was at pool. So I played against all the kids across the whole state. People, hundreds of miles away heard my name when I was only 12 or 13, so I already kind of experienced like people like knowing my name. And I just thought that was crazy. Like, there's no way someone in St. Joe or 2-hour car drive away knows my name. Like, and there's like, no, seriously, they know that you play here and they know you're the guy to beat, like, wherever. And I was like, all right, cool. I love playing pool. So then, I had a manager at one point, and then I was supposed to travel to go to Las Vegas, Nevada to compete for 10 grand when I was like 12 or 13 years old. And my parents went through a divorce. It led me to even like running away for a day. I called my dad and said, Dad, pick me up. But I ran away from my mom's house because she wouldn't let me go. My dad was supportive of my competitive nature. So just like, it was an ordeal. But, and then, my mom had me go talk to a lawyer, and the lawyer told me I'll never be a pro at anything. And so he just pissed me off. Like, I was like, I'm going to, you don't know who I am. You don't know what I've already accomplished at this young age. I'm not just some kid that's blowing smoke up your ass. I've vetted myself. I went around for years, as a kid, my dad owned a pool hall at one point, and all the kids that were older than me, like 7, 8, 10 plus years older than me, they would take me around to pool halls and we'd go win money. And, and I was very straightforward. I was like, hey, play this kid for $25 a game and let's see who wins. And then you win 2 games, get $50 in your pocket. I get 50%. My buddies get 50%. And then we end up going to 7-Eleven and playing Mortal Kombat all night. that was my life as a 12, 13-year-old kid. I loved it. It was a trip, man. And so that's what we loved to do back when we were kids. And these guys obviously being older than me and having a car and able to get around and back me as a young pool player. But yeah, that lawyer pissed me off. And I've always just wanted to kind of show how much desire I have to compete and train and practice. Like I said, I felt like I was torn from that as a young kid. And, even even in high school tennis, I mean, we're a pretty big school. Like, we don't have a bunch of slouches there. I mean, our it's like a 5A school or whatever deal is. So there's a lot of students, but like, I became team captain of the tennis team my junior and senior year. I mean, and that was just practice. I love playing tennis and I love competing. And but even then, like, I was just a casual tennis player. I was never going to go to college to play tennis. I was never that good. If I had to rank myself, I was a 4.5 tennis player, or like a good one. And if you're not 6'0" or you're not 5'5" or 6'0", you're not going to college to play tennis. So I was like your high school badass. That's as far as I got with that. But like, that's the thing. Like, I didn't get to train my whole life to play one sport, and esports and gaming was that opportunity to, kind of go for it all. And that's what I loved about it when I turned 18. I was like, I'm doing this 1,000% now. Like, no one's holding me back. I'm going to live wherever I have to live to find out. I have to find out. And that was the biggest thing. There's no regrets. I wanted to find out if I had it or didn't have it. And I found out I had it, and then the rest is history, kind of.
No, I think, we've found the root of it. I'm interested in this idea that a lot of people kind of find themselves in a place of competition or high art or, what great accomplishments, right? Almost always have a root in some form of trauma, right? Nobody does anything great if they don't have something to prove. You very rarely find somebody who's just like, everything was totally cool and great and awesome. And also I went on to do great things, except maybe like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I'm sure he had some trials and tribulations in his life too, but the outward picture, if you go watch like a documentary about him, it's like, yeah, he just succeeded at fucking everything from birth to, till he's dead. He'll probably be the president or some shit before he dies. But yeah, that is because, the picture that's kind of painted of you is like, all we, the public, really know is that you're just a winner, like he's just won everything. And then now he's fucking, selling game chips and all kind of crazy stuff, putting his brand everywhere. But the truth is that you went through that moment, at an early age that kind of taught you that you had something to prove. And to go a little bit further, you mentioned how, you're going around with other people and you're playing pool and you're gambling on it, and you have, you're splitting pots, like, hey, sponsor, take me to this place and, handle the money, and then split it 50-50, that kind of shit. It taught you how to do business at a young age too. It taught you how to negotiate. So that's really interesting shit, man. Yeah,
it's fascinating when I look back to it. And like, as a young kid, I was always wondering if my dad really loved me. It's like, he let me do everything, he really let me live life. And, when I was 10 years old, he trusted me to walk across the freeway, I mean, he knew I had the common sense to make the right choices. Yeah. And so he just had a lot of trust in me. He understood, make sure you look both ways, left and right, and so, yeah, I ran a baseball card shop with my dad, when I was like 6 years old. From 6 to like 11 years old, we had a baseball card shop and a pool hall eventually. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes my dad would go off on a golf trip and leave me there to run the business. And it was cool. I loved the responsibility and the trust. My dad's had a very trustful relationship where we just tell the bloody truth sometimes. It's just, you just have to, the honesty is the most important thing.
Definitely. And you have to be able to make mistakes. I mean, obviously your dad didn't want you to die when you crossed the freeway, but
so funny stories, like behind the pool hall, my sister and I were playing and I fell into the creek and cut my wrist open. So you never really see it, but I actually have like this massive gash on my left wrist from 6-year-old injury. I mean, obviously this injury is about 6 inches long now, but I, let me do whatever I want to do also came with some scars. So, but you learn from those experiences, and I still blame my sister for my wrist. I always give her crap, but it's just family drama, but not really drama, just a comedy, really. So, it's fine. Obviously, I've made it out okay, but being injured, I've never really had full capability of my left hand, to tell you the truth. Like it's is limited in range. So I always wonder if I had full range of my left hand, what it would be like. But I just never knew of that time in my life. I've always had an injured left hand my whole life, and it's not injured like where I can't use it. I can still play golf. I can still play hockey. I can still grip it. I can hold it. I can, obviously I can touch, I can move the keyboard around really well and so forth. But, it's just like one of those thoughts you have, like, if I had a perfect left hand, like what would I be stronger there? Would things be a little bit different, but it's just like, you just don't know. Cause it happened when I was 6. So I just remember when it happened.
If you didn't go through that experience and you didn't have the muscle development that you now have in your left hand, I bet you'd suck. You wouldn't even be as good.
I mean, there's the right hand does a lot with the shooting and so forth, but I what the funny thing was, that's what got me into sports. Actually, being injured, my left hand actually got me into sports, and my parents pushed me so hard to play sports because of the exercises I need to rebuild the left hand. So I played catcher a lot as a kid growing up in baseball. So you're every throw, you're just constantly working on, your left hand, like squeezing, and I remember they had me washing the dishes in hot water and everything. And so, I think a lot of that was, parents felt kind of guilty about it, but obviously they knew they had to work on rehabilitating their son's left hand. And, now it's strong and healthy, and it's been strong and healthy for basically probably forever. I don't really remember ever being weak besides when I had the cast on, but I was such a young kid. I was 6. I didn't really know any difference besides I had a big hole in my left hand.
Do you still train, like doing physical exercise a lot? Is it still part of your life, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's as much as it used to be. I mean, I'm not running 2 miles every day anymore. But the last 3 years, I've been playing hockey a ton. Mm-hmm. I've been playing hockey 2 to 4 times a week, depending on what's available. And I'm playing paddle tennis as well, which is like a kind of like an outdoor activity. It's like a smaller tennis experience, but you still get a pretty good sweat. I'm actually playing in a tournament here in a couple of weeks. And so, yeah, I mean, physical fitness and just being healthy, like I still think about that all the time. I was after 3 years of playing hockey, I was getting to the point of like, okay, I'm about ready to make the turn. Like I could feel that I was getting faster and faster on the ice, and I was getting more deadly around my opponents, and just, I'm scoring a lot of, I'm scoring goals. I'm playing like C-level hockey, which is, kind of like, I would compare it to like your high school league, kind of thing. Like I would, some of the guys played college on my team. Like they actually went to Boise State and played hockey or whatever. So some of those guys are legit, like real hockey players that played on a collegiate level. So we have a good team. We actually won the C-level championship, like 2 seasons ago. Which was actually amazing. But as I was like making my biggest strides this year in March, I was like, man, I'm getting so fast. Like I'm getting to the point now where I think I'm like my body and everything's about to take another step I'm going like C level to B level very fast in hockey. Like I feel like my endurance is up there, my agility, my sprint, like everything's like kind of like going in the right direction. And then I was beating this guy on the right side past the blue line, and this has happened this year in March 11th. He checked me, which is a non-check league. It's like a beer league hockey, but he checked me, sent me in a hydroplane into the wall, and my skate got stuck on the wall and the ice at the exact same time, and I broke my fibula, broke my ankle.
Yeah. So
that happened this year, and so right when the lockdown happened across the world, basically I was already locked up anyways because I had a broken ankle. And then basically, it's healed now. I've gotten back on the ice and started playing paddle and stuff like that. And I say it's still like probably somewhere in the 80 percentile of like healed, but it's getting better all the time. And luckily for me, it was a clean break on the fibula. And so, my goal is to kind of get back to like pushing hard again in sports and so forth. But, it's just been weird with the whole COVID lockdown for everyone that, right now it's just not the optimal time for me to be doing all those exercises. And, also I'm working hard on some business stuff as well. So just, I got Ready Up. I got Fatal1ty. I just did the Fatal1ty diabolical event this last weekend. So just like, I have a lot of things going on where it kind of limits my playtime stay outside. So
I understand completely, but I'm curious. Jared actually runs a website now called Mind Body Gaming, where he has a lot of really great content, you know, about how to just take care of your body and also have that gamer lifestyle. But I'm curious for you, like, what physical exercises do you sort of recommend that specifically benefited you as an esports player?
Yeah, I think, you know, you got to have diversity and so forth. I mean, the thing is, if you're really trying to become a world champion or a professional gamer, that's your life. That's all it is. Like training, practicing, all that stuff. But being well diverse to where you're like, you know, you want to get your workout in, but as in the minimal amount of time possible, because every second you're not playing, you're not getting better. Is kind of how I used to think about it. You know, the biggest break you could ever take off from gaming, if you want to keep all your skills of wherever you had that previous day, is 2 days. So the most you can ever take off in esports and gaming, if you want to keep all the skills you already had and not lose any of your skills, 2 days is the absolute max you could take off. And if you take 3 days, like you come back, you'll notice that you're sluggish, slower, or you're forgetting like basic things. I used to A/B test myself like crazy, so I kept track of everything. And the other thing, you know, what's the quickest workout you can possibly do? It's running. That's why I did. Just go for a run. Go get that 2 mile run in. Like that was my goal. 2 miles. Get 2 miles in. Come home. Do 50 sit-ups. 50 push-ups or 20 push-ups, whatever you can do, and then that's your workout for the day. You did your 2 mile run. You got some push-ups in. You got some sit-ups in, and then, you know, now you got to get back to like, okay, you got to eat food. You got to relax. You know, you got to get your hours in. You know, you got to keep playing and so forth. And me surrounding myself with really awesome people, like just cool people in general that I trained with, made it feel like it wasn't an 8+ hour workday. You know, it was half that time. But I always say 8+ hour workday, but I always think of like people like in traditional jobs, like an 8 hour workday. Like how many minutes were you actually working? Like when you walked from point A to point B, you really weren't working. I mean, you were walking. You know, like I actually did 8 hours of actual gameplay. So when I say 8 hours of gameplay, I'm not talking about I was in 8 hours of actual combat of a situation in a moment to compete, or like I would be in a tournament. So I don't know what that equates to, but like that's, you know, I'm doing 8, 10, 12, sometimes even 17, 19 hours a day, depending on like how crazy I am at the moment or what my strategy is. I'm like in the moment actually competing. I'm not in the lobby waiting to ready up. I'm not, you know, in front of my computer browsing the web or, you know, whatever deal is. I'm actually in a physical moment of the game. And I think that was kind of like, you know, that was some of my secret sauce, you know, like that was kind of like what, you know, I would wake up and I was on fire. Like I would do these training, like when I did that 17, 19 hour day stretches, I would do that like once a month. You know, it wasn't like because it really messes up your schedule. You get kind of in a complete funk after that because your timetable is all messed up and everything like that, waking up and going to sleep and all that stuff. But I would do it like once a month. I would do like this crazy session, like where it's almost like a 2-day event. And, you know, it helped me learn how to play also tired. So, you know, I would literally, like, after I did like a 19-hour session one day and wake up the next day to start playing again, I was on fire. I couldn't miss a shot, couldn't miss anything. I mean, it was just like I was instantly on. And like people talk about warm up, like I got to warm up and everything like that. Like, dude, it was like there was no warm up for me. Like I was on fire all the time, every second. It was just like everything was flowing. And I think that comes down to all my practice and training, and then like, you know, this sick day of like 19 hours of gameplay kind of thing. But, you know, that was what I did.
That is very, I don't know. It's strange because there seems to be no particular like regimen other than, as you said, just hit the ground running and play. But because sleep is very important. And I notice a lot of people, you know, just in general, if you spend a lot of time at the PC, I don't know if it's a blue light thing or just an adrenaline thing, but a lot of people really struggle with sleep, and it's not something that they prioritize.
I think if you ran like an exercise, you would naturally just get tired because of just, you know, the exhaustion of just doing the grind. You know, like I would go, my regimen is I had to go to bed at 4 a.m. every night. So and I wake up at noon. So basically 11:55, I wake up, I go to the computer, and I hop in a game with one of my buddies that are already down there training, and we just go at it for 4 hours. And that's another one of my tricks. You know, like waking up and going right into a gaming moment. Mm-hmm. It's like the biggest life hack to like getting your hours in, because you're not really actually awake yet. You're still like trying to get your bearings right. So like, it was so funny. Like the first hour and a half almost would literally fly by. You wouldn't even know it happened, you know? And so I was able to get my 4 hours, like half my day in by 4 p.m. every day. And then at 4 p.m. I go for my run. I go run, I get my push-ups, my sit-ups in, have my lunch, relax, get 2 more hours in, relax, maybe play some Mario Kart with the guys, just hang out, and then play another 2 hours before 4 a.m. Then repeat the next day.
So no breakfast.
So breakfast to me was like, I for breakfast back then was orange juice, grape juice, some kind of juice. You know, that would be my breakfast. And so, and then after my run and after my exercise, I'd come inside and I'd have like a turkey sandwich, ham sandwich. You know, I'd have like chips or whatnot. And then that was kind of like my lunch. You know, it was like it'd be 2 full sandwiches with some chips and turkey ham and cheese sandwich, and then basically I would relax and, you know, kind of chill for a second. Then I would see who would want to play 2 more hours with me. I'd get someone to say, okay, I'll do 2 hours with you, and then I'd do 2 hours with him. Then I'd go upstairs later on and I would have dinner. And then I'd have dinner probably, you know, sometime before midnight, I guess. And then, you know, that would be like chicken noodle soup. I think I ate a lot of chicken noodle soup back then. And yeah, I mean, my cost of living was very cheap back then. I was always amazed at how much money I could save. Yeah, so then I'd have chicken noodle soup, and then basically I would chill, hang out, play more Mario Kart, whatever, and just kind of like chill a little bit. But then if I was, you know, if I wanted to work on something specific, I would let's go play now. Let's get the 2 hours in now. Like, you know, I was trying to get my final 2 hours of the day in before 4 a.m. But like, if I can get it done before 2 a.m., it's even better, because everything after 2 a.m. is kind of a bonus time. And then basically I would work from, you know, I'd play more. I'd do 9 hours a day instead of 8. I would do 10 hours a day instead of 8 or 9. You know, like every day was kind of different. Just kind of depend on the mood. But, you know, I had a bare minimum that I had to accomplish every day, and that was 8 hours.
And that routine is very important, especially with training. I'm curious, like, you know, when you're getting ready and you're going to fly, or you're going to go to fucking South Africa and sleep on someone else's couch for, you know, to get ready for this tournament, and it breaks up your whole routine, but at least you have that basis, you know, that your training has gotten you to a point. But do you find that,
yeah,
you know, when you sit down to compete, you know, at a LAN somewhere in a foreign country, or, you know, just under circumstances that your body's not acclimated to, right? Because I think, do you think that kills a lot of people in competition as well?
They could get tired at international competitions. So basically, I would always try to arrive pretty early in the country I was competing in, like the week of. So if I had a tournament that following weekend, I'll be like, oh, I need to be there Saturday or Sunday in that country so I can get used to the time change and so forth. And, you know, and I had to have someone always fly with me. So Zen was like one of my training partners that kind of flew everywhere with me. And we'd set up a LAN center in the hotel or wherever, and we would train and we would get ready for the tournament. And, you know, yeah, I mean, we kind of kept the same schedule for the most part. I mean, you know, maybe in those countries they had breakfast in the morning, so we'd go have breakfast in the morning downstairs. But like for tournament time, you know, I would definitely have breakfast in the morning. I'd have a pretty big breakfast for the morning. I'd have like a full breakfast, right? And I always try to have the full breakfast like at least 2 hours before my match, or maybe 3 hours before my match. Probably 3 hours. So like if I had a match at noon, I would want to go have breakfast at 8 a.m. And so I had breakfast at 8 a.m., 8:20, wherever it is. Go have breakfast, come upstairs around 9. Okay, let's play for 2 hours. Let's get 8 games in. So we play 8 games, and then it's like, okay, it's getting close to tournament time. Oh, we got an extra 15. Let's play one more game. Oh, we got an extra 15. Let's play one more game. And then basically you're just waiting for like them to say, hey, we need you down here in a separate computer. Then you go down a separate computer. And then basically I don't eat the rest of the day. I only drink water, and I just don't eat.
Yeah.
No eating is allowed. Eating puts me in a food coma personally. So I just didn't want that to ever happen. And I just want to be flowing, make sure I stay warm. I would always wear like a pullover fleece when I competed and drink a lot of water. A lot of people think that, a warrior goes to battle hungry, right? First of all, because your body's digesting, right? You get into a food coma or whatever it is, or just in general, like if your body is putting energy towards digesting, bread or, something that's not easy to digest, your brain's not working at full capacity. And also there's the part of it that's kind of more of an ethos, but it's like, when you have a battle going on between two people, let's call it an actual warfare, and they're going to kill each other. The hungry man has more to fight for than the guy who's got everything and a full stomach and, a wife to go home to. It's a scary situation, but you kind of competed like a caged animal a lot. And that's like it showed that I was a Neanderthal.
Yeah. I mean, you were like, you really did. You'd show up and you just, zero mercy.
Yeah.
And you and Machiavelli sort of kind of pioneered that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know about Machiavelli's going hungry strike.
I don't know about going hungry, but I mean, like, just being absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is like, being fatal, like having my name Fatal1ty in the first place. Why I chose it at a young age, or like I chose the name like when I was like 11 or 12 or 13 years old. Like it was, gosh, Mortal Kombat came out. I always forget like the exact time I chose it, but I was definitely like 12 or 13. And it was when I was logging on BBS before the internet came out. And I like the name Fatal1ty because in the game Mortal Kombat, the guy's already dead, but you want to rip his head off now. And that's what kind of Fatal1ty meant to me, is like, like why I chose the name is because like I want it to be about no mercy. I know you're dead, but I want you to never come back. I want you to never forget this moment. So it's kind of like the final blow. It's the fatality. So that was like kind of like my demeanor. I wanted to give no one hope. If I gave up and let a guy get a couple more frags at the end of a game, that could give him a confidence boost. He could think, oh, I can kill him. I can frag him. Mm-hmm. So my whole career, I was always about finishing it to the last second. No mercy, go for it all, and make sure this guy never forgets.
So let's transition now. We're, I think, an hour or so in, and I want to get you out of here in an hour and a half if we can. So with brand building, that's kind of I'm not diminishing in any way your esports stuff, but your brand building is kind of like the big story to me. The fact that I mentioned Machiavelli earlier, actually, like you guys were some of the first esports guys to do the same thing that Michael Jordan did, where it's like, hey, if you want to be competitive, you got to wear these fucking shoes, marketing yourself, putting your name brand on, graphics cards and just equipment, making sure that people knew. I don't know. That is interesting, but here's a product that can make you compete a little bit better like me. This is the equipment that I use, and that is a very powerful tool. What made you decide that was the route to go?
Well, I mean, I looked at kind of the esports space in general. I mean, I've been a part of it since the internet came out. I mean, I've been a part of esports and gaming, competitive online gaming forever. Back to Quake 1, Doom 2, Duke Nukem, all those games back in the day. I played all of them, but I was stuck in my Midwest home with no support from the family to travel to, the E3s back in the day, competing for a Ferrari and all that kind of stuff. I was so jealous of that when Thresh won that Ferrari, I was like, God damn, I would love to go and compete in that. That would have been so cool. It's just been fun to compete, man. That's the excitement, and when I saw Dennis win that Ferrari, I was like, wow, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. And, I just being in this space and watching kind of everything doing, like I watch all these companies making products for gamers and so forth. They weren't even making it for gamers. They were just making product. They were making mouse pads, and it wasn't even a gaming product yet. Like, I mean, Logitech had the Wingman gaming mouse back a long time ago in like 1997. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I saw like, okay, this company decided to make a mouse that they already made. It was called Mouseman 95. And they were like, oh, we're going to make a gaming version of it. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like they're actually thinking like an athlete would, that they need better equipment. They need something better to play Quake better, or whatever it was. So every Quake player, pretty much like back in the day, had a wingman. They had a wingman or an IntelliMouse, one of the two. And so obviously me playing as much as I did, I saw an opportunity to make things. I saw that, if I play for an extremely long time on this hard surface, I have pain in my wrist. Well, I don't want pain in my wrist when I play for 6 hours or when I play for 4 hours. Like, I had to take breaks. I had to get a towel out and put it on my forearm so that my wrist would float in the air so I could play more Quake. And I just thought it was ridiculous that I had to worry about injury because I wanted to play too much. And so that gave me thoughts in the 90s about making, some different things, like making, I was thinking about making a glove with rubberized stuff in the wrist and so forth. And I kind of go through my checklist of things I want to create for gamers. And I think of like how good is it? Okay, that thing's going to get sweaty and nasty. You start thinking about all the like things that people will want to use and think that are cool and what they'll buy and what's functional to compete. So I found this printer pad. A company made this printer pad that you put a printer on so it wouldn't, I guess, scrape up your table or whatever, or I don't know, not shake, or I don't know why they made it. But this printer pad was an amazing mouse pad. It was the biggest printer pad. It was 17 inches by 14 inches. It was bigger than every mouse pad out there in the market. But they were marketing this thing as a printer pad. It wasn't even a mouse pad. And so I took that idea and called up the company after 3 years of using the printer pad as a mouse pad. Over the next 2-3 years, every Counter-Strike player bought the same printer pad because I was doing massive amount of interviews talking about this printer pad. And I increased this company's sales like threefold. I called them up and talked to the guy who runs the whole business in Utah. And I go, hey, this is Johnathan, Wendel, Fatal1ty. Just curious, how many printer pads have you sold in the last 3 years? Have you guys went up in sales? It's like, yeah, we've actually tripled in sales. It's amazing. And then I said on the phone, you're welcome. And then he's like, what? It's like, well, let me explain to you why you're selling 3 times as much more than you were. And I told him the story about me doing all these interviews and being world champion and all these things. And he was like, oh my God, you're the reason. And so, because he had no idea. He had no idea why they're selling more printer pads at CompUSA, Circuit City, and all these different stores. He had no idea why it was happening. And so after I talked to him on the phone for a while, we started doing a business deal together. And he was like, oh, if you can keep moving the business forward, I'll give you X percentage and, so on and so on. And I was like, well, how much can you sell me the mouse pad for? And actually put the Fatal1ty logo on it. And we can sell it as a gaming mouse pad for gamers. And he gave me the price. I was like, okay, I'll buy a crate. I'll buy a full crate. And it was like, I don't know, it was like $7,000 to get, thousands of mouse pads, wherever it was. Mm-hmm. And then basically I started creating a website, created Fatal1ty.com and started putting the product for sale on there. And I started making, $5 or $10,000 a month selling mouse pads. It was like literally overnight, it just started happening. And then I started calling Europe up. I started calling distributors in Europe and it's like, hey, you guys start carrying my product. I started shipping crates of Fatal1ty mouse pads over to Europe by boat. And then eventually to like Japan and Asia. So it was like all of a sudden I was selling to Asia, Europe, and America these Fatal1ty mouse pads. And basically I was the guy who, created the large gaming mouse pad. And now you see everyone makes a large gaming mouse pad now. It's pretty much synonymous. Everyone has to have it as like their marquee thing they have to have for as a brand or as a company now. But yeah, that's how it started, the mousepad business. And obviously that, gave me a spark. I was like, man, I got to make a lot more things for gamers. And so then I just started, looking at the market and, we looked at motherboards and, we obviously got into motherboards with A-Bit and then ASRock. We created the gaming division across Republic of Gamer didn't exist. MSI Gaming did not exist. All these things did not exist before Fatal1ty. Fatal1ty was the first. And we were the first one to make gaming motherboards that were specifically built for gamers. So we made everything
like between a gaming motherboard and just another motherboard.
So the biggest thing is the consumer has no idea what to buy.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. So the consumer has no idea to buy. I went to Micro Center and look at the shelf, and I saw A125XE25123AX5. I'm like, dude, which one is for gaming? Like, there's no way to know unless you talk to some expert. There's no way to know. Like back then, that's how bad it was. You just had no idea what you were buying. Like, and you'd have to rely on someone that worked there that could tell you, okay, this is the best one, and so forth. So I wanted to help the consumers out to make it an easier choice for them. Buy Fatal1ty because it means gaming. You know that this thing works. If this is the performance level, this is your entry level. This is the bare minimum to get into esports. You want professional? This is what professionals use to compete with on the biggest stage. You want champion level? This is what the people that have too much money or just want all the bells and whistles, they'll buy the champion division of the series. So that was kind of the idea behind it. And A-Bit understood it. We started launching it. Obviously, the amount of PR that I was getting at the time, I mean, it was just a ham and egg deal. Like everything made sense, and we just started selling a lot of motherboards across the globe. And then with ASRock, ASRock was known as kind of like a super low end budget brand in 2010, and we signed a deal with them to bring Fatal1ty brand into their house, and basically started making Fatal1ty gaming motherboards underneath the ASRock brand. And basically, we changed ASRock's position as a company. They're no longer known as the low budget brand. They're known as making mid to high tier level product as well now. And so we kind of changed ASRock's image. So when I look for manufacturers to work with, I look for opportunity where they don't have a gaming division or whatnot, and try to bring in the Fatal1ty brand into that specific product line. And then, if I can give actual input to how to make the product, like making headphones with Creative Labs and so forth, I actually have hand-on design control, where I say, I need the headphones to be like this. I need this kind of closure. So if I'm at a tournament, this is how it is. Or if I want to be at home if I want to hear outside, I need these kind of ear cups. This cord needs to be like this length. I want removable microphone on the headset. And we sold over 2 million units of the Fatal1ty headphone with Creative. So that was kind of like my expertise, is that I knew what I needed to compete to win, but also I knew what the consumer wanted. And so I would build certain things for consumers and certain things for me specifically to play and win on the biggest stage. So that was kind of that's the whole kind of idea behind Fatal1ty branding, is to just make products for gamers to help them play to their full potential, but also make it easier for consumer to know what to buy and not to buy. And you can see everyone's kind of copied it. Everyone's kind of copied that messaging. And now it's kind of just, now you have a lot of fake brands out there that they didn't live in the battlefield like I did, like actually do the actual, I actually lived it, so that's kind of like where I have like a one leg up now, is that, I'm an authentic brand, whereas some of these gaming brands, they're just some fake made up name. It says gaming on it, and now it's a gaming product. Like it's kind of ridiculous, but people are just trying to make money off gaming when, they're not really technically a part of it. But it's a weird situation. So that's what I'm working on with the Fatal1ty brand, is to keep being authentic and keep doing what I'm doing, and keep trying to make products for gamers. And that's what I've been working on a little bit recently. But I've been working more on the ready up side of business, which is trying to help gaming esports grow in general. And that's another complete different conversation than the one we're already on. But I have a lot of ambition to help esports and gaming to continue to grow, and I want the masses to be as heavily a part of it as possible, but make it easy for them, simple, just like I did with the products.
There's so many great things that you did with the products. First of all, you are in a position where you were getting exactly what you wanted, right? You're cutting out your own personal cost of, having to buy things because the company's making it, you're demoing it, you're getting it honed into your specifications. And then not only that, but you're making money off of it because you were selling it to other people. So like you literally turned a situation that for most people is a cost and turned it into a huge benefit for yourself. So,
well, it's licensing. If you have a brand, you have your own IP, you can you can work with different companies that are manufacturers that are willing to put the money out there for the product and pay a licensing fee to have the brand. Mm-hmm. And part of the licensing fee is that you get the person, you get me, you get, my insight, and you get the branding, so, and you get the authenticity that comes with it. So, it's kind of a win-win situation for both parties. I mean, obviously licensing, you're not getting the lion's share of the profits because you're not putting the money into the product development and all the sales channels and all the things that they already have set up. But that was actually what I was going to do back in the day. I was going to do it all myself and create my own sales channels and do everything myself. But Creative Labs basically came back and says, we're going to do exactly what you ask. And the next day it was basically like turning on the faucet to some degree. We were selling to over 100 countries and, we were just selling. And so it was, low risk, very low risk on my side, extreme upside, and also allowed me to keep competing and keep winning my tournaments, which I still needed to do because the Fatal1ty brand wasn't in orbit yet. I mean, in the reality, it's still not in like complete orbit, but like people know Fatal1ty, they know the brand, they know me. So it does have legs. But Nike and Apple's in orbit, like they're freaking in space, right? Tesla's literally in space, so, my brand's not there, but that's kind of like my goal someday is to have it, be at a higher place in the atmosphere, I guess you could say, in this weird choice of words.
I mean, knowing your personality, I know you won't accept anything less than being the absolute highest, best thing that you can possibly be. But, the truth is you're making a very comfortable living doing exactly what you love. And that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So, I mean, is selling gaming products ever going to be Tesla? I mean, probably not, but you're definitely winning.
I'm trying to conquer my demographic, my endemic, area, and just trying to be a positive force in the esports gaming world. And I think I'm accomplishing that with Ready Up and with Fatal1ty, and with these community events I did recently and going to do next week. I think I have a good hold on it.
Let's dive into that because you mentioned earlier how you were trying to focus more of the business on promoting the esports and everything, and as you said, Fatal1ty the brand, right? So for you will always, to my generation, be the guy. There's no erasing your brand from people my age's name or brain. But as time goes on, as you said, there are a lot of other people competing and doing the same thing or trying to do the same thing that you already did, and therefore the market becomes more saturated. And so a kid that today, right, some 15-year-old guy, he's probably not as aware of Fatal1ty as he is of, some big Twitch streamer or whoever they're really into. Rafa's out there, just Team Liquid in general, there's plenty more going on in esports other than just, Quake and AFPS. But with you focusing now on Diabolical, I'm really curious for, your thoughts on the game and also how do you see it benefiting you, brand wise? Because if you build up arena shooters, you lend your name and your prowess to that game, that is going to bring over a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have played it. And then that will turn around and benefit you the way I see it, because you'll sell more products.
Yeah. I mean, right now we're in the rebuilding phase of making products again and so forth. But the Fatal1ty with Diabolical, the idea was that I wanted to start doing these community events in general, and not just for arena shooters, but for all up and coming games. If this was, 3 years ago, I would have done an event for PUBG. I would have asked PUBG for some money to give away to the community and use my brand to leverage against to throw an event. Obviously at this time, I was able to meet the production team of Philadelphia guys, and they were like, "You gotta start doing these Fatal1ty events." I'm in. I just need the team, and they were like, "Well, we're your team." So basically, we did our first show last weekend with Diabolical. I reached out to Too Good and said, "Hey, I'd love to do an event for you and lend my name to your game and so forth." And typically these type of deals, I would get paid a pretty good check to be associated in this regard. But for me, it's like, I have a soft spot for Arena FPS. I have a soft spot for Too Good making the game from scratch and building out to what he has now. And I don't have like a direct relationship with the Quake Champions really. So it just felt like a natural fit. And so, I thought it'd be a good game to kick off the Fatal1ty series of events. And we had a great showing this last weekend. I think we had over 17,000 viewers for the weekend, which I was pretty happy with. And the response I got back from the Diabolical community and others, everyone loved it. Everyone had a really good time, and I want to do more of those. But I'm not just limited to the Diabolical. Like we did the USA event. We're doing the European event December 12th to 13th, I believe, having an open tournament and then an invite with the open players that qualified. And we're going to do another Diabolical thing. And then in the foreseeable future for 2021, if there's an opportunity to work with Diabolical more, definitely would love to do it. I'm not sure if you saw my tournament we threw, but it was Diabolical Aim Arena. It was actually a lot of fun, a lot of action. The reason why I chose Aim Arena as the game mode for the tournament was mainly just because it's pure excitement. It's mano a mano. It's still 1v1, but it's just like it's constant engagement. I'm not a big fan of games where you have to hit plus back or run away. And, I understand where I came from and collecting items and armor and all that stuff. And like, that's like the nitty gritty of Arena FPS. But I'm also trying to think of the viewer too. Like, what does the viewer want to see? And what excites them? What makes it exciting? When you watch the UFC fight and watch guys fight in a small octagon, it's not like the octagon changes every day. It's the same octagon every time everyone fights. And it's close corners, so people can't fly and run away all the time. There's eventually they're going to get, put up against the fence, and there's going to be some punches thrown. And in Aim Arena, I felt like kind of the same thing. It's like this small arena style map. People just can't run forever. It's impossible. You're eventually going to get put up against side the rope, and that's going to be that type of arena. So for me, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really easy for people to follow, even if you're not into esports or gaming. Like, it was very easy to watch and follow and understand. And you didn't have to worry about learning 5 people shooting their ultimate off at once and casting spells. But there's a place for everything, and I just wanted to start here as kind of like my first step in doing these community events. And down the road, I'll look at other games too. If there's something to do in a MOBA game or an RTS game or other shooter games, I'm going to do those events as long as I get support from the game publisher to do them. And I think it's just great for the community in general. And with my brand, I think I can pull off some cool, fun things and do a professional job.
I think it's really interesting. You mentioned how you chose Aim Arena for a reason, and Diabolical in general has been very heavily focused towards like the clan arena style game types. You also mentioned the, what does the viewer want to see? What interests them? And I'm thinking about like the potential new, gamer who wants to like get into arena shooters, right? If you jump straight into duel, that's going to be a very hard road to, it's going to discourage a lot of people. And not everybody's going to be like hyper competitive and crazy like, you are, where they're just like, I'll do anything to learn and be better. Some people just really want to play the game, and that's the vast majority of, your potential customer base is people who just want to have fun and enjoy it. So I think that's a really smart move on their part, to focus on the more casual kind of game type. The Clan Arena has always been let's just hop in and, play a few rounds of Clan Arena kind of thing. And it doesn't require so much from a new player to learn as far as item timing and everything goes. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, the Wipeout is, I think, their game mode that they are pushing the most, right? So, it's like a Clan Arena with like this last egg survival kind of thing. It's a cool concept. Like, as a veteran Rock Arena guy, I mean, I've been playing Rock Arena since Quake 1 days. It's cool. I love it, and it's fun to play. But yeah, I just wanted an easier path to entry to arena shooters, and I thought Aim Arena was that. And the people that were part of it loved it. But, you still have people that are scared. People are scared of playing arena shooters because they just get smashed. Even if they have good aim from Call of Duty or Counter-Strike, whatever deal is, they still get smashed in arena shooters. And, one guy talked about in a tweet, he's like, I just got 0-15 in the Fatal1ty Diabolical Aim Arena tournament. And it's like, I'll stand by it till the day I die, but arena shooters are the best gamers in the world. So it was kind of cool to see, like, another player who's actually talented at other games say that. And it shows you, arena shooters are just tough, man. Like, it's one of those things that it's a unique skill that not everyone has. And it's just playing 1v1 deathmatch is not easy.
Well, I've really enjoyed spending time with you, man. This has been really cool and informative and a great learning experience for me. I'm sure the audience is going to appreciate it too.
No, thank you, man. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I think that's super cool what you do too, man. It sounds pretty dope.
All right, man, that was fucking cool. Thank you to Johnathan Wendel, Fatal1ty, for, giving us the time of day for the interview. That was really cool of him. Honestly, he didn't have to, seriously. And I want to say thank you to all of our supporters: Paul, Moose, Dots, Zach, Alexander, Brad, Red Eyes, Anthony, Robert, Jack, Brandy, Fred, Lord Revan. You're all incredible. Thank you so much for, giving your hard-earned dollar to the Keep. It's seriously humbling to know that you guys care so much. I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. Those out there listening, if you're wondering, like, hey, how can I give back to the Keep and be like those people that just got named off? Well, obviously, they're all Patreon supporters. You can go to inthekeep.com/support and become a Patreon supporter yourself. You can also donate through other ways, PayPal, credit card, Venmo. They're all available. We also have affiliate links if you would like to, do your Amazon shopping through our link. It won't cost you anything extra. You just pay through Amazon. Jeff Bezos doesn't quite get as much, and we get a little bit. I mean, if you're going to shop through Amazon anyway, I don't really see what it matters. If you're thinking about starting your own podcast, I highly recommend Buzzsprout. That's what I use. Seriously, that's what I use. I'm not sponsoring them because of any other reason. I'm not actually sponsoring them. This is just an affiliate link. I'm just telling you that I use Buzzsprout, and if you choose to use Buzzsprout, you should go through our link on inthekeep.com/support, and we'll give a little bit back to the Drown God. You can also use Instacart if you want to buy groceries and you're too fat and lazy and, too much of a piece of shit to go out and buy your own groceries. Instacart will have your groceries there in, as little as an hour. So you can use that link too. But until next time, stay in the Keep.